A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. I rejoice heartily in the Lord. In my God is the joy of my soul. For he has clothed me with the robe of salvation and wrapped me in a mantle of justice. Like a bridegroom bedecked with a diadem, like a bride adorned with her jewels. As the earth brings forth its plants and a garden makes its great growth spring up, so will the Lord make justice and praise spring up before all the nations. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Over a year ago, on a cold November night in Times Square, police officer Lawrence DePrimo, who had been assigned there as part of a counter-terrorism unit, noticed an old man. The old man was clearly homeless and even more obviously barefoot. Officer DePrimo asked the man for his shoe size. He then went into a nearby shoe store, and bought the man a pair of all-weather boots. Now, they would have cost about $100, but the sales clerk, understanding their purpose, used his employee discount to bring the price down to $75. Does this sort of thing happen often? Maybe it happens more than we think, though obviously not as often as it should. According to the shoe salesman, most of us are New Yorkers, and we just pass by that kind of thing. Now, no one would have known about this incident had it not been for a tourist from Arizona who snapped a picture of Officer DePrimo giving the boots to the homeless man, and that photo went viral. I believe that all the feasts of the church are both joyful and prophetic. In other words, we never simply celebrate the life of Christ or one of the saints without bringing the joyful news contained in the feast to bear upon our lives. So, for instance, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. We look at this wonderful proclamation that Mary, who was preserved from all sin, from the first moment of her conception, became a part of our lives. What God did in the life of Mary and does in our lives is not unlike what Officer DePrimo did for that homeless man. Lawrence DePrimo didn't turn his gaze away. He saw a person in need and he responded. And his compassion put shoes on the bare feet of another. At the core of the Christian faith is the conviction that we are alienated from that deepest, most loving core of reality, which we name God. And the gospel proclaims, time and time again, that God hasn't turned away. God saw our need and responded. God's compassion for us was so great that he sent his Son into the world, born of a woman. God became human to make us divine, to give us a share in God's own life, to make it possible for us to believe what is beyond belief, to hope against hope, to love as Jesus loved. When we celebrate the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, we are proclaiming that grace ran ahead and purchased the shoes that we needed to walk and to set us free. But grace, like charity, must run deep. It has to permeate the foundations. Our bare feet must be covered. Early one Sunday morning, over 600 years ago, before the dawn, on the day after the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, a simple peasant who had been baptized into a new religion called Christianity, was on his way to Mass on the outskirts of Mexico City. And as he walked, he heard music. It started out with just the birds, and then it seemed as if the earth began to sing beneath his feet, and all the bushes and brush around him. And then a light came out of the ground, spreading to the skies. It seemed to shimmer and move like a fountain. And suddenly on the path in front of this man, with her feet planted firmly on the ground, her bare feet, was a young woman. She was beautiful, and like him, she was an Indian, one of the indigenous people of a land that was broken and shattered by the Spanish conquistadors who had settled there. She spoke to him in his language and asked, "My son, Juan Diego, where are you going?" "To church," he said. She spoke to him again. "You must know and be very certain in your heart that I am truly the ever-virgin mother of the true God, through whom everything lives, the creator and master of heaven. I am your merciful mother, the mother of all of you who live united in this land, and the mother of all peoples, of all those who love me, of those who cry out to me and seek me, and of those who have confidence in me." The church proclaims that there is one person, Mary, who was totally human, in whose life grace was utterly triumphant. Mary's holiness, her fullness of grace, like the all-weather shoes, covers our cold feet, helping us to stand on our own and to run to God who welcomes us.